My name is Mary Miles. This is for Dr. Awadawa's 168 A&P class. This is my skull video. So here is my skull, and here is my skeleton. And I'm going to help my camera operator kind of get in line. So we're going to start with the top of the skull. There's a lot of bones in the skull, so you might find me repeating myself a couple of times just to make sure I'm trying to get them all. So on the top of the skull, we can see several bones and sutures. So here we have the frontal bone. Right here is the parietal bones. We've got the occipital bone back here in the back of the head. We have the, right here is the corneal suture, and this is the sagittal suture. And if we look on the back of his head, let's see, the back of his head. Okay, so again, the occipital bone is back here. We also have the lambdoid suture will be back here. You can see the temporal bone that's also back here. The mastoid process is also back here. We've got the mastoid process, which is back here. And the occipitoid mastoid suture is also back here, which is right around this area. So next, we'll just look at the side of his face. Let's see if I can get some light on. Trying to get some light on him. Okay. So again, we had the frontal bone up here. We've got the supraorbital fissure, or foramen, I should say, right above the eye. We've got the supraorbital margin right below that. Here is the sphenoid bone. Down here we have the zygomatic bone and the infraorbital foramen. The nasal bone is right in here. We have the maxilla, the mandible foramen, underneath here we'll have the styloid process and the mastoid process. Right up in here we have the mandible condyle. And again, there's a suture that comes through here, the lambdoid suture, and the occipital bone is back here. So now in the front, let's see. In the front, there's a lot going on. We've got the glabellas over in here, the supraorbital margin, the nasal bone, see, the zygomatic bone, the sphenoid bone. We'll have the optical canal in here. The mandible. So inside there's the optical canal. There's the supraorbital foramen. We've got closer over here, we have the ethmoid bone, the lacrimal bone, the maxilla, the inferior orbital fissure, the zygomatic bone, the palatine bone, the lesser and the greater wings up here of the sphenoid bone, so now we're going to take a look inside in the skull. So we're going to take off the top. We're going to look inside. I'm going to turn him around. So he's like this. And so up here you're going to have the frontal sinuses, the anterior cranial fossa. You're going to have the foramen rotundum and the foramen ovale, the foramen spinosum, the middle cranial fossa, the internal auditory canal. This, where the screw is pretty much where the foramen magnum is. The posterior cranial fossa is back here. Then we've got the hypoglyceal canal. Then we'll have the jugular foramen. We have the optic foramen, the crista galli, and before that should have been the cribriform plate. On the underside of him, where around the teeth would be, on the underside would be the mastoid process and the mandibular fossa. He's kind of not easy to, they would be underneath in here. You would be able to see those better in an inferior view. But that's going to conclude my video for the skull. That's the end.